It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Polling day. Want to get into a couple of polls. Caught my attention. Turns out more people are avoiding the news than... And thank you for Reuters for reporting on this. Very important. People don't want the news anymore. Tired of hearing about COVID. Tired of hearing about Russia invading Ukraine. Tired about the cost of living. Tired about inflation. Tired of bad news. And, you know, I got to tell you, I'm not surprised. But they said 38% of us are often or sometimes avoiding the news. And that is up from the other high of 29% back in 2017. And there's something else was going on back then. Yeah, there was something crazy back then. Oh yeah, there was the former guy. Lots of bad news there. Yeah, and just in time for the new Omicron strain to coming back on the scene. Evidently, the new strain, 21% total of the COVID's cases coming up are this new strain. They're saying, hey, this could be evading the new stuff. Nobody's paying attention. So good time for that. Good times. Also, some more polling fun from our friends at Gallup. They evidently have been taking a poll on the moral values of the nation. And, well, they have said that we believe it's bad. Things are bad. Record high, evidently, 50% overall Americans say the state of moral values in the country is poor. Another 37% say only fair. So a lot of people unhappy. Just 1% of us believe moral values are excellent. I'm going, are you okay? I don't really know what that means. We throw that moral value stuff out. I'm not quite sure who are we talking about. Are we talking about the country as a whole, all of us individually? 12% said good. This kind of makes me go, we're in a weird spot. We're in a really weird spot, and we're in a place I want to talk a little bit about here in the opening. But the other scary poll, Yahoo News and YouGov poll, show that most Democrats, 55%, and most Republicans, 53%, something they agree on. Look at that. There can be agreement. But sadly, it's something not good. They think that this country will cease to be a democracy in the future. That is a bad thing, because you listen to either side. Both sides, they want democracy. They want what they want. They just don't want to recognize the other side, which is kind of weird. But this kind of bipartisan despair of a country that we all claim to love and all claim to want to be the best it can be seems very strange. Half of folks who claim to be independent, about 49%, they express similar ideas. Just a quarter, 25% of us consider the end of U.S. democracy unlikely, and the other quarter unsure. I'm in that quarter that is, I'm not going to say it's going to go away. I'm going to say we've been in bad times before as a country. We will work through it. We will work through it. And the reason we're going to work through it is because we're not going to allow it. Diane sent me a really very thoughtful email asking a simple question, because I talk a lot about having conversations with people that I don't agree with. And actual conversation, not just shooting platitudes across the bow at each other, not just yelling talking points, but, you know, having conversations. And she writes this email, you have conversations with people you disagree with, but how do you do that with people who simply will never listen to reason or fact? How do you get them to put down insane beliefs and focus on reality? Interesting bit. Someone else sent me a story written by this Kayla Chadwick over at HuffPost, which is really thoughtful. She goes into, I'm tired, I'm politically fatigued because, she is willing to pay an extra little bit of money to make sure that fast food workers are able to have a living wage. She's able to, pay a little bit more in taxes to make sure the public schools educate children. She's able to pay a little bit more in her paycheck so that people have health care. This idea that she gets into about caring about others a little bit more, caring about society, the social contract, being in this together, something that basic empathy, basic understanding that we're all in this together. And she says, look, I can't have debates with people who aren't of that way. She said, our disagreements are not merely political, but a fundamental divide of what it means to live in a society, how to be a good person, and why any of that matters. And, she goes, look, the I've got mine, screw you attitude that's been oozing on the American right wing for decades is part of this problem. And this is where you've heard me talk for years about people in terms of being a five. They're a five, I'm going to move on. You've got your selfish, your uncaring, hooray for me, screw everybody else, don't care. That doesn't mean anything. They're the fives. They're immovable. You can't talk to them. They're shut down. They're true believers in whatever their faith, their ideology. It's basic, 1 through 5. Your fives are gone. You're never going to reach them. I tend to focus with people who are willing to talk, are willing to listen. You're never moving the fives. And look, I identify them early on. I save myself the headache of having to deal with them because you're never going to move. It's never going to happen. Let them go. I focus on the 4s and 3s and having those conversations. And because here's the thing, when someone stakes that flag in the ground, I'm this. I just had this conversation, talked about it yesterday. Had a guy from Texas. I'm ultra conservative. He staked his flag in the ground. I said, okay, well, why? Can you explain why that is? If that answer goes, I only care about me, I only care about tax cuts for myself, I only care about my family, I don't care about anything else, our conversation's over. There's nowhere left to go. You've left nothing to discuss. I now know what's important to you. But if you then come back with some really true conservative values of, look, I want to use, government resources more efficiently to help as many people as possible. I believe in, this, and this is how we should be doing things to make lives better. Then this is where you have fertile ground for actual conversation and getting things done. And this is why, like I say, you have these conversations. And I believe you listen more than you talk. That's why I ask more questions than I answer when I have these conversations, because I want to know what people are thinking. Because I think we've gotten into this weird place. We've gotten into a place where we got the hats. We've all got our hats. We bought the T-shirts. We got the flags. We've got the ideology, but haven't really thought through the positions so much. And there's so much inconsistency in our politics. I mean, it's crazy. You get people talking about freedom while then passing laws restricting that freedom. We love the Constitution, but we're going to basically wipe our behind with it on January 6th and usurp the authority of it by trying to overturn an election. Makes no sense. And look, this isn't just the right. It's on both sides. No one's immune. Labels are part of the big problem here as well. Everyone wants to label. I had a guy call one time. He said, "Oh, you're a leftist." I go, "No, I'm a labor guy. I'll cop to that. I'm a labor guy." And look, I've been called everything under the sun, and I'm okay with that. But at the core, I stand for working people and making their lives better. We can have a conversation about everything on how to get to that goal. That's my premise. Everything we can work on. But if you're starting a position, Diane, and this is to answer your question specifically, we got to listen more than we talk. We got to think through our positions much better, and we got to listen to each other. But at the end, we've got to have the ideas. We've got to have the people motivated. And democracy is how this country is going to move forward. We've got to go out and do the hard work of legislating. And right now, the left, for all of the noise and all of the things that they're doing, are losing at it. Because the right has built a media machine second to none. They are organizing at the base level of Maslow's hierarchy, and it's all about fear and smear. And they're doing the hard work of legislating. And I fear, and this is where, again, I'm in this weird spot, that we're not talking to people that we should be, because the people who are going to suffer into the future, and there's a bunch of issues that you go, these are working people issues. It's not right, left. This is up, down. And that's where my focus has always been. We're too easily divided, and we've got to stop that. And this is where I think we have to get back to talking to each other and listening to each other. Just my thought. I'd love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Share your thoughts, your questions, comments. If you've got a thought, I want to hear it. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. I got a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. There's the January 6th committee hearing that didn't happen today. Tomorrow, big day. Lots on the horizon. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. So the Federal Reserve, the Fed, has decided they're going to jack up the interest rate 0.75 of a point. That's going to hurt. Slamming on the brakes, it appears, because, well, inflation is biting everyone. Let's quick go to the phone lines. We've got Alice on line one. Alice, how are we doing today?
We're doing two things.
Hit me.
Number one, it is very hard to have a conversation with some of these people because they don't even live in the same reality as we do.
And those are the fives. You let them go. Don't even try.
Yep. And the second thing I wanted to tell you is I was reading an article last night, didn't bookmark it or I would have sent it to you. The same people that took down Madison Cawthorn and released all the pictures and stuff have decided to take on Lauren Boebert. And they've got a lot of goodies on her.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know that I saw that and I didn't jump into it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not going to shame someone on those lines, even if she is a hypocrite. I'm not going to go into the attacking someone if she did have an abortion. I'm not going to attack her for that because I think it should be her right. Even though hypocrite, the hypocrite part I have a problem with, but all of the other stuff, those are personal issues. I'm struggling with the values of being a decent person and the values of someone who's a hypocrite. You see where I'm at with that?
Yeah. I don't have a problem with having an abortion or anything else either. But I just thought, she may be in for a rocky ride. Yeah, now she
has said she's going to sue. So if she does sue, that's going to open up a lot of discovery is an ugly thing that I will be interested to see if she actually does go through and sue.
Exactly. Have a good evening,
You
Rick.
too. I appreciate it, Alice. Thanks so much. No, I mean that's the reality in this. For those who don't know what Alice is talking about, there's a story going around that Lauren Boebert was an unlicensed escort through, I think it's something like sugardaddy.com. and her and the husband were meth addicts. I mean, there's a lot of accusations, and I didn't jump into the middle of any of those because I think a lot of it is private issues. I think these are, if true, being a sex worker is something that we should be talking about, regulating, ensuring that people are safe and secure and all that stuff. And the claims that she had 2 abortions, and again, I'm not going to beat her up for that because I think they should be safe, rare, and legal. Even with all of the hypocrisy, she has said some things about people who have been raped and things like that. And look, there could be some stuff there that I don't know. I struggle with getting into the middle of all that. I think she's a horrible legislator. I think she's a dangerous person to have in Congress. I don't necessarily think those are things that that I would use to play into it. But again, this comes back to what I was saying a moment ago. This is about being empathetic. This is about being a decent person. This is about being caring about society as a whole. This is about making sure that people are going to be okay. That social contract. Now, look, as Alice pointed out, there are some people that you can't talk to, and I want to. I want to be able to talk to some, and I've got some acquaintances that are really off on the fringe. I talk to them because I want to know how far off the fringe they are. I want to gauge just how far our society is going off the rails. You're never changing them. And this is where, maybe hopefully having, the attempt is helpful, but you deal with what you can. And I believe that we are a society of good, decent people when we have those conversations. And when we explain ourselves. Like I said, we spend way too much time shouting at each other and not enough time listening. And that's it's part and parcel to our media structure and to how busy our lives are. That's the other part of this, and there issue after issue that gets into this. Let's go to the phones. We got Gordon from Florida online too. Gordon, how are we doing today?
Hey, thank you for taking my call, Rick.
What's on your mind,
brother? You were saying earlier about people finding common ground is real important. I identify as a conservative, and you look like you're a progressive. But
I'm a labor guy.
Yeah, you're a labor guy. Most of us on both sides of the political aisle want to have sensible ability to protect ourselves with the Second Amendment right, sensible costs of college that are affordable, whether it's free or not, is something that actually could go both ways and be okay. But everyone wants it to be affordable, liberals and conservatives, except, of course, a few rich people in higher ed. And there's a lot of other things that most of us want, like protecting the grid. And so, as you know, I'm not going to drop Alan Collins's name out of respect for him, although he probably wouldn't mind it. I don't know that for certain.
Yeah,
but I will
did.
let him drop my name. As I mentioned to you in our private conversation, I'm the guy that nearly won the Terry Schiavo case, okay? The biggest pro-life case, and I'm sure you could have verified that. Plus, I'm fiscally conservative. I don't like free handouts against taxing and spending. I'm as far right. I'm several orders of magnitude.
You made your bona fides. What are you getting at?
Well, my point is that what I would like to find out, if it would be all right if I would team up with you and others to call upon our lawmakers to restore bankruptcy protections, because if the bankruptcy protections don't get restored for student loans, 2 things are going to happen. First, the Department of Ed is going to keep spending insane amounts of money because the borrower won't have any threat of bankruptcy, and us conservatives don't want to see trillions of dollars go down a black hole. The liberals keep complaining about public service loan forgiveness, rejecting 99% of people. That will continue to happen unless bankruptcy is restored. And if it doesn't get restored, whatever you think of forgiveness or cancellation, nothing good is going to happen for college students or taxpayers. Now, I'm not saying that. Now, the students have actually repaid more than they borrowed, but I don't know that cancellation or forgiveness would solve any problem, because it would cure the symptom. It would free some of the debt slaves, but it would not abolish debt slavery. So I'm not going to take any stance on the cancellation issue at this point, but to say that we have to cure the underlying problem. And I'm sure that you know that if we keep pouring money into higher ed, it hurts the taxpayers on the hook, and it hurts the students because colleges raise the price for the college because he can borrow more. And it's not student aid. And I want to procure your assistance. You remember Alan Collins was talking about those bankruptcy bills, S-2598 and H.R. 4907? Everyone should get behind, call our lawmakers, our senators, our members of Congress repeatedly. Without that, the dollar is going to crash. With it, we might buy some time. Those are the two most important bills in Congress.
I'm in favor of the bankruptcy bill as I see it and as I understand it, and I've said as much, because it seems like a good first step. I do think there has to be something on the debt forgiveness front to help people who have paid. I mean, some of the numbers that Alan had thrown out and were just obscene, and something has to be done, and there's something has to be done down the road to rectify our problems. And yet, I think we would completely disagree on some of the solutions.
Yeah.
I look back to what my grandparents' generation built. We had a much higher tax rates on the wealthy, on a corporate America that funded our education systems, so that the burden didn't fall onto the backs of students.
Could I just want to clarify just two things, if I could I please? Number one, I fact-checked a lot of what, on my Contract with America Part 2, I'm the National Director of Contract with America Part 2, and we're nonpartisan, but I'm conservative. And I fact-check a lot of what Alan says, and you can go to my website. If it'd be all right, I'd like to give out our website. It's up to you.
Sure,
but we fact-checked it. Most of Contract with America and the number 2. And you can go to my personal websites, GordonWatts.com and GordonWayneWatts.com, and they lead to it. And so we fact of the clear understanding section. Most of what Alan says I've been able to prove is true. Some of it was kind of confusing. But I haven't found anything really that he said false other than maybe a couple of typos. The only other thing I want to say is this. My good friend George Norrie lets me call into Coast to Coast AM, what used to have the Art Bell and he said now bankruptcy would only help a few people that would need to file it, and he was thinking that it would not help a lot of people. But now George Norrie is one of the best show hosts in the world. He lets me call him Coast to Coast, and I would say this to George next time I call in, and anyone that doubts. Guns help every single police officer and a law-abiding citizen. Only a few people need to shoot someone in self-defense. Only a few people need to file for bankruptcy. But the threat of bankruptcy, the threat of self-defense, is what makes both the Department of Ed and the Public Service Lending Program behave so that both taxpayers and students are not royally ripped off. Conservatives and liberals should agree on this one point. If we don't get the 2 student loan bankruptcy bills passed, we will crash the dollar, and they're the most important bills in Congress. And they're not just something that'll help a few people. It'll help everyone, or it'll not help everyone if it don't get passed.
All right, Gordon. There you go. And you got the good gun analogy in there. That was good. That was good. You got the messaging done.
Rick, I really want to thank you. Between me and you, my friend Alan thinks I'm a little bit talkative, and he's probably nervous when he finds out that I called in. But listen, Alan is a good guy. I fact-check him, and a lot of us, his group, Student Loan Justice, has conservatives and liberals, about a 50-50 mix. And speaking for the group, I believe I could say this. We thank you greatly for having Alan on and for having me on and letting me drop Gordon Wayne Watts, the guy that almost won the Jerry Shivo.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. We're not going over the Shivo thing again because we're going to disagree on that. But thanks so much, Gordon. I appreciate it. No, but here's the thing, and this is where this conversation with Gordon is really important. I guarantee you we disagree on a lot of stuff. I can guarantee you this. On this issue, this is not a right-left issue. He keeps talking about right. This is an up-down issue. This is an issue that this should be a working-class issue where working-class people are saying we should be able to have go as far in higher ed and education as far as our talents and our abilities can take us, not as deep as our pocketbooks will allow. To me, that's the way forward. I appreciate the call, Gordon. I got to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. Well, working people have the talk.
Q-Cells has been like the first around here that focuses on clean energy. For millennials, not a lot of us want to be jumping around job to job trying to figure out what we want to do. But in clean energy, we see a sense of job security and longevity, something that we're going to be able to do for a long time. It's important for Congress to invest in clean energy infrastructure because it sends a positive message to smaller communities like Dalton. It'll provide jobs for those that are struggling to meet their financial needs.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the quote of the day, you gotta love this. Tom Rice, Republican of South Carolina, who lost the Republican primary in South Carolina to the Trump-backed challenger. He's now saying, of Trump, he's purging. He's trying to set the Republican Party up as a bunch of yes men loyalists. Think about it. That's scary. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary that what they're getting away with, and they're doing it right out in front. They're using the system, and they're telling us they're doing this. In fact, they're spending millions of dollars, not just on poll watchers, but on poll workers. The RNC is spending a whole bunch of money in 16 states to push and recruit thousands of poll workers and poll watchers. Now remember, the poll workers, they're supposed to be the ones who are nonpartisan. They're supposed to be the little old ladies that, what's your name, dear? Okay, right here. That march you over to the machines and here you go. Here's your card. Good luck. Go do your thing. These are now going to be partisan people that the RNC is pushing into this. These aren't going to be people who they care about good democracy. Those days are over. Those days are over. And it's frightening. Now you go back to the polling that I talked about earlier, that half Democrats, half Republicans, and almost half of independents believe democracy's doomed. And it's this kind of stuff. And our elected leaders are paralyzed by whatever reason. And I shouldn't say all of them. I should say one of the parties seem to be very paralyzed in doing anything. And this is the really frustrating and angering part of this, because out of all of this stuff that's going on around January 6th, there should be a moment where we go, how do we make sure that this never happens again? How do we make sure that we hold people accountable when they break the rules? And what we're finding out throughout this entire process, what the first two hearings have been really about, is just what Trump knew and what all the people around him were telling him, and what a ripoff it was. So when you've got someone like Tom Rice coming out and saying, hey, he's purging the Republican Party, he's setting up a bunch of loyalty yes men, maybe Republicans better be afraid. Because maybe that poll of all of us, half of us believing democracy is going to die, is maybe not too far off. And here to share some thoughts on that and maybe some thoughts on the upcoming hearing, I've asked Reed Galen to come talk with us. Reed is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Reed, thanks for taking time for us.
No, thanks, Rick, for having me back.
So what do you make of this? Tom Rice lost in the primary there in South Carolina, but he's saying, look, Trump's purging everything. He's trying to set the Republican up as a bunch of yes men loyalists. You got the RNC spending all this money on poll workers and watchers. It seems like the game's already being rigged before anybody votes.
Well, I think Congressman Rice is right. And this is not an unusual thing. There were 10 Republican members of the U.S. House who voted to impeach Donald Trump after January 6th. And Rick, right now it looks like maybe one of them will survive. Maybe two. Liz Cheney's got a primary coming up in August. Adam Kinzinger got written out of his district. Anthony Gonzalez in Ohio said, I'm out. Rice, as you mentioned, lost last night. And this is not an unusual thing with these kinds of movements, which the Republican Party is becoming, Rick, which is they'll purge the moderates first and most harshly. And when we think about moderates, right, we may not think about the likes of a Kevin McCarthy, but I'll tell you this, MAGA land does. And so what I would say is that, this is the beginning of the electoral process where they're weeding out the people who they don't consider loyal. But it will continue throughout the fall and into next year as Republicans, if they take the United States House, make decisions on who they want to run the place.
Yeah, no, I've had some of my political guru friends tell me that probably the best thing that can happen is they do take the House and they show just how crazy they are. so that over the following 2 years, we don't go even further off the rails. Do you buy any of that?
I guess, it's a little bit of a dangerous thing. I mean, here's the problem is that it's just like going back to 2016, right? Oh, Donald Trump can't win. Donald Trump can't win. He wins. Oh, Donald Trump can't be nearly as crazy as we think he is. He is. The Republicans will be so crazy they'll scare people off. I mean, just as I was coming in, Rick, you mentioned, does half the country believe that democracy matters? There was a survey I think I saw somewhere out of Michigan that, about half the voters there, maybe it was 40% of the voters like, it doesn't really bother me. And so, yeah, this stuff can happen. And it can happen very quickly. And remember, too, that, with the 2 years they will have, at least in the United States House, if they take it, they will spend it doing nothing but making sure that that nothing gets done certainly for the American people, but also that, that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are dragged through the mud, perhaps impeached. Hunter Biden, will be the, just like Benghazi was, Hunter Biden will be the talk of Fox News and OANN for the next 2 years or 2.5 years, whatever it is. And so it can be bad. And you just hoping it will be so bad that it scares people but doesn't kill us it's a risky thing to think about.
Yeah, but I've already got my Q MAGA right-wing Trump supporting friends going in that direction of going, well, the left did that to poor Donald Trump. Now it's turnabout is fair play, Reed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, look, they're gonna do it, right? And they were gonna do it no matter what. I would say this is that, it's interesting what we're starting to see, Rick, in some of the numbers we're looking at is that the Republican Party is split into three right now. I think a third of them, they'll vote for Trump because they won't vote for a Republican, but they're not really Trumpy, right? They're probably the last of the old line establishment Republicans, right? Suburban, educated, those folks I like used to be me. Then there's a third that are the diehard Trump people, right? They're in on him no matter what. And then there's this third that's sort of a new development, which is they're the ultra MAGA. They have surpassed Trump in his behavior and his insanity and the things that they're saying and willing to do, right? They are true white Christian nationalists. They are the people who say, no abortions for you, all the guns for me. Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania, right? I'm going to get rid of all abortions. It's going to be a law and order state. I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to decide who votes. I'm going to decide who doesn't vote, those things. And so I think that you see this strain of the MAGA world, and it is unique, I think, to the otherwise Trumpism, is I think a very dangerous thing. And it's all of our peril if we think, again, like a Mastriano or a Kerry Lake or any of the people nominated last night in Nevada, that they can't win. They absolutely can win.
Yeah. No, what's interesting is you bring up that third, and that third has always been with us. They're the ones who've been burying rice and guns in my neighborhood for years because they believe that the next civil war is coming, and they've been the prepper crowd that I think the left has mocked for a very long time, and they were never really highly organized. Right now, they seem to be very highly organized.
Well, I think that some of them are, yes. But I think also, to your point, Rick, is that when you talk about them, as they first emerged, they might have been those folks, right? They get the giant cans of chili and cream corn, but they probably weren't actually politically active or terribly politically active, right? They didn't really like anybody. They, maybe they were conservative in a weird way, but they probably didn't even like Republicans. They thought they were all rhinos. But Trump did what is, I think, we're dealing with right now, which is he drew the zombies out of the forest. Yep. And they now walk among us.
Yeah, he let the genies out of the bottle, whatever analogy you want to use. Absolutely, because they were libertarian more than anything. Leave me alone, free, that free earth mindset that I've had so many people try and explain to me.
Right.
But here we are in this moment. Then, so does that help or hurt the cause of democracy going forward, given the reality of the most recent polling?
I think we don't know. I think is the problem, which is midterm elections. Not surprising. Well, all elections come down to who turns out, but midterm elections tend to be more of a test of a party's or a candidate's turnout operations because there isn't anything driving the top of the ticket. I would say that you saw a recent survey out of Pennsylvania today that had John Fetterman up, I think, 7 on Dr. Oz. That's good news. It had Josh Shapiro, who's running for governor as Democrat, up 4 on Mastriano. I think that's good news. But, I'd like to see them up 10 or 12. That would say to me that there were enough otherwise normal voters, normal human beings, whether or not they're soft Republicans or independents, who are taking a look at Mastriano and saying, I want nothing to do with that. And then I think you get a guy like Dr. Oz, Rick, where, in the T, right in the middle of the state, they're going to take one look at that guy and his, phony hunting get up and his, clearly never held a shotgun before. And they're going to be like, I don't like this. Maybe they do like Fetterman, right? Maybe he codes more to them than certainly Dr. Oz does. So I think there is hope, but it's going to be a very weird calculus to get us there.
It's going to be an interesting fall here in Pennsylvania to make sure. You listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Reed Galen, co-founder of the Lincoln Project. You can follow their stuff over at lincolnproject.com. I saw this interesting thing. Today was supposed to be a hearing. I was looking forward to another hearing. They've postponed it. Tomorrow going to be one talking about Mike Pence and the pressure campaign to Mike Pence. In fact, his chief of staff was on CNN, talking about how he feared for Pence's safety. In fact, said he wouldn't have alerted the Secret Service otherwise if he hadn't been concerned about it. What do you expect to come out of that hearing?
Well, I think what you'll see is again more coordinated efforts on behalf of Donald Trump carried out by people who definitely knew better, who definitely knew that Donald Trump lost the election fair and square and it wasn't close. Trying to find ways to keep Trump in power. Some of those are be the true believers, right? The people that are ride or die with Trump. Others are sycophants who, he wants them to do something and he'll do anything for them. But I think that we shouldn't overlook the idea, Rick, that the chief of staff of the vice president of the United States had to call the Secret Service detail and say, I'm afraid that the president of the United States might kill my boss. Like, that is not normal. That is something you see in, banana republics and third world countries, right? That's not something you see in the United States of America. And so I think if they do it well, and I think they have done an excellent job so far, is that they will show the steps that Trump was willing to go to lean on Mike Pence up until that moment where on January 6th, even a couple of days previous to that, he said he wasn't going to do it. That Mike Pence said, I have no constitutional authority to do this. I think it was interesting. I watched the tail end of that CNN interview, which was I think it was Anderson Cooper asked Mark Short, there's apparently, these stories that Donald Trump was saying, well, maybe Mike Pence deserves to be hanged. And Mark Short's like, oh, I don't think Donald Trump would do that. They had such a great working relationship. Like, I don't, like, you already went all the way, pal. Right? Like, you don't have to protect anybody at this point. Like, nobody believes that.
Yeah. No. If you're going to say the first part, you got to say the second part as well. If you were concerned for his safety, you were concerned for his safety. Maybe it wasn't Trump pulling the lever, hanging him, but somebody at his behest surely were. But are you surprised at the videotape testimony that came out in the previous two of how some of the people around Trump are now trying to portray themselves as, what was the term, team normal?
Right. Let me start with that. I mean, whether or not it's Jared and Ivanka or Bill Barr or Bill Stepien, they're only team normal, Rick, in the context of the Trump White House, right? They're not normal anywhere else, right? That none of that stuff flies in any other White House, probably any other professional organization. What I would say is that, one, none of them want to lie to a congressional investigator. My guess is it would not surprise me if they have not yet been contacted by a federal investigator or the FBI. They will soon. They're not going to lie to them either. But this also goes to, the kind of piranha pit that Donald Trump creates around him, which is, at the end of the day, nobody's going up the river for him. They're not going to do that. And I think the other part, too, is whether or not it's Stepien or any of these guys, they all have, they all want to continue to make money, which I think is the root of a lot of this stuff, right? A lot of these people said they stepped away, but they didn't actually quit. And they want to be able to still go to, Cafe Milano in Georgetown, Rick, and say, yeah, I know, like I knew it was all hooey. But the point is that they stuck around. Bill Stepien could have gone out on November 5th, 2 days after the election, and said, I went out and told Donald Trump he lost and he's not listening.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't do that. He waited until he got a subpoena to do that.
Which is why I give Bill Barr no credit. Bill Barr gets no points with me because in his resignation letter, at least, he could have said something more forceful than what he did.
Well, yeah, and again, this goes to the whole thing, which is so many of these things. It's just like any, Rick, any chain of events that leads to a catastrophe or a major accident. At any point in that time frame between November 3rd and January 6th, somebody could have come out loudly and said, this is all hooey. This is all a lie. If they had done it in those first days, if they had done it the day that Joe Biden was called as president-elect of the United States, if then Mitch McConnell had said, I want to congratulate the president-elect, right, and the vice president-elect, maybe this doesn't happen. Yeah. If otherwise normal Republicans, and there's that normal word again, which I think has a different meaning now, had come out and said congratulations to the president-elect, a lot of this stuff probably doesn't happen. They wait until December 14th when the electors actually meet to cast their ballots to finally say it. Well, at that point, Rick, you're 6 weeks into the conspiracy. And, all these things have been set in motion. Mike Lee, the senator from Utah where I live, he sent Sidney Powell and John Eastman and these crazy people. He sent them to the White House, right? He aimed this, and he's like, I didn't have anything to do with it. So all of these people contributed to what we ultimately saw happen on January 6th.
You brought up John Eastman. We now see that there is an email correspondence between him and Clarence Thomas's wife.
Right, and this is where the Washington D.C. Beltway culture is coming into stark relief with the reality of the situation. No one in official Washington wants to call out the spouse of a sitting Supreme Court justice, right? They don't want to do it. The problem is it's almost impossible for them now not to at least A, invite her for an interview, or B, subpoena her, because she clearly was conducting active measures on behalf of the Trump administration or Donald Trump personally, whether or not it was with Eastman, whether or not it was with these legislators in Arizona, wherever it was. She was not a bystander to this stuff, Rick. She was an active and willing participant. And I think that Washington, D.C., if it truly wants to save democracy, is going to have to make peace with that and haul her before the committee.
Absolutely. And look, she's been eyeball deep into this stuff for years and has been getting a pass all this time. So it's about damn time someone pull her in for something. So last question.
Yeah, look, Rick, in another time, like Clarence Thomas is off the bench. Like he resigns in disgrace, right? We're not there.
Yeah, we're certainly not there. So last question I've got for you. These hearings, do you think they're going to matter? Anybody paying attention to them? Because, look, I've had some conversation with cab drivers, people on the Amtrak train. They don't seem to be paying attention. I'm curious what you're seeing.
Well, I think that, that on the first night when it was televised in prime time, that 20 million people turned out to watch it, I think was a huge thing. I think it also, frankly, forced Fox News to cover it because they realized, wait a second, we're not going to cover it. They need to keep their people in that reality distortion field, but it wasn't going to work. The other part, too, is that I think it starts to allow for people like us, Rick, to ask Republican candidates or to encourage their opponents and reporters to say, do you believe 2020 was stolen? Do you believe Joe Biden is the rightfully elected president of the United States? Some of these people are going to waffle, but Rick, more of them than not are going to double and triple down. And that's where you talk about how crazy they look. They're going to start to get pushed into the crazier and crazier zone. Some of them will get away with it, but some of them won't. And those ones that won't might be the difference.
Yeah, and I get to ask my Congressman, Scott Perry, did he preemptively ask for a pardon?
Well, that's the other part too, right? I mean, if it's Perry or Boebert or any of these people, they're going to be, spinning like, plates on a stick to try and get out of that.
As well they should. But Reed, I appreciate you taking some time for us and the work that you do. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rick.
Good stuff. Reed Galen, co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Make sure you check out the work that they do over at lincolnproject.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So what's interesting is this Barry Loudermilk thing. Evidently, there's video now that shows that Barry gave a tour on January 5th of the Capitol there with people taking pictures, and it was quite interesting, looking at the footage there. But it's interesting, how this whole thing went on, because remember, nobody gave any tours. Nothing happened, nothing to see, move along, nothing bad happened. No, we didn't do it. No, it's ridiculous. That could never happen. There were no tours. Everyone knew better. And then it was, yeah, maybe there was, but it was just, it was no big deal. Just close family. That was nothing. They were new. No, we don't. And then it was, yeah, okay. You did it, but it wasn't a big deal. Just a few close friends, constituents kind of thing. And then it was, yeah, okay, it was kind of a big deal, but it wasn't illegal. No, it wasn't illegal. Yeah, we broke some rules, but wasn't illegal. And then it was, it was kind of a big deal, and it was a little illegal, but didn't have anything to do with January 6th. No, because we didn't take any pictures. No one got arrested. No one was involved. None of that stuff. And oops. Well, yeah, it was kind of a big deal. It was illegal, a little, but it didn't have anything to do with January 6th. No. And the pictures we did take, that was of the incredible artwork on the barren walls. And, those stairwells and those exits and the stations where the security people work, those were really interesting. Those are works of art. Those are things that, were so important to the unnamed people who came in on the Trump buses from South Carolina. Yeah, oops. And you go, hello? Should we not be looking at this a little more carefully? Because these were reconnaissance missions. These people were taking pictures of all of the exits and entrances. And especially now that you look at the backdrop, that you had these Proud Boy patriot groups, Oath Keepers, all these people who, there is a document on how they were going to, do their due. It seems that a lot of this stuff, seemed to be working hand in hand. But nothing to see, move along, not important. That kind of non-accountability. What happened to the Republican Party? Please find your souls. Remember, you're the party of responsibility. You're the adult party, supposedly. You're the party of accountability. What happened on that day was wrong. Admit it. Simple. Don't justify, don't deflect, don't project. Admit it. Hold those people accountable. Now, I'll tell you, Barry Loudermilk, I was kind of a little bit surprised. I thought it was going to be Boebert or Green or Cawthorn or one of the new extreme ones. Interesting that it's Loudermilk. Now, his defense is, none of our people got convicted of anything. I guess that's the defense now. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Love to hear your thoughts, though. Is it a big deal? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available, wherever you get your podcasts. From Podbean to Stitcher to iTunes to iHeart, everything all around, wherever you get them, that's where you go. Simple. Accountability, that's the word.
Trump won the presidency.
I would rather give Nancy Pelosi a sponge bath than endure like one dinner without
disgusting.
shift.
Yes, we don't believe in abortion. No, we don't believe in homosexuality.
Would you trim her toenails?
I would trim her toenails with my teeth.
No, we don't accept Biden as our president. We stand on the word of the Lord.
By gas, infant formula.
Here we go again, spin doctor, back to the gas prices, which has nothing to do with this.
There is a caravan of 10,000 migrants that are coming.
We have 15,000 people headed this way right now.
It's all theater, it's a circus, it's a political witch hunt.
January 6th circus.
This is a communist committee.
A baby formula shortage.
They're going to have baby formula on the show.
Gas prices have doubled.
People are worried about gas prices.
Super high gas prices.
Gas prices.
Gas prices?
Gas prices.
Price of gas.
In my state, the price of gas is so high that it would be cheaper to buy cocaine and just run everywhere.
It wouldn't exactly be the worst thing in the world if parts of this country were subjected to nuclear hellfire.
I pray for our president, Psalm 109:8. May his days be few and another take his office.
Their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
Being gay is gay. It's the most disgusting, despicable, stupid.
This earth warming and carbon is actually healthy for us.
Don't let them get away with this crap because they've been getting away with it for too long. Call it out. Don't give them what they're looking for.
And she said, look, this is someone who they own tons of guns. She goes, I think people under 25 shouldn't be able to have a gun. I think we should be raising the age to a real responsibility. And when I threw out the idea of, hey, what about, this car analogy that people keep throwing out? She goes, look, responsible gun owners, people who are really, truly responsible, not the crazy people who are carrying the card, not the NRA folks who have been indoctrinated, but real responsible gun owners who truly take it as a responsibility. And they want to have the accountability. They want to have, people off their back. They want to be able to own their guns. They want to be able to use them responsibly without all of the other horrible stuff that goes on. And this is kind of this moment where we appeal to them. Nobody's taking them. But having these conversations about, getting, the police unions, they don't want everyone carrying a gun. The police, the Fraternal Order of Police, the sheriff's associations, they don't want teachers being armed. They don't want the proliferation of guns everywhere, because the proliferation of guns everywhere doesn't make us safer. But you've got the moneyed interests who keep pushing this. And as long as we get into our polar opposite camps, as long as we don't talk to each other and really explain the position, because, I was ready to go on this let's go tangent on guns and, why we shouldn't have arsenals and, 100 magazine clips and stuff. And she's like, no, we don't need that stuff. We need to be able to protect our families. We need to be able to have the freedom to own these things, but there's got to be accountability on it as well. And, she initially pushed back. I said, well, I think insurance as well. And she goes, well, I don't know about that. I go, well, you insure your car. If you give your kids your car, they get a hold of your car and they kill somebody, you're accountable, right? She goes, yeah, that's true. Because I've always believed that if you have a gun laying around, your kid picks it up, takes it to school, shoots somebody, you're responsible for that. That was your tool. It's the same thing if they came and took your hammer. It's holding people accountable for the things that they choose. We can't have those conversations. And I don't think our Senate is either. Because everyone's afraid that, especially on the right, that, the gun nuts are going to go crazy and they're going to lose votes. When I truly believe the responsible gun owners, the one they claim that they care about, the responsible gun owners, they don't want crazy people having guns either. I know a bunch of people should not have guns. I think they even frighten themselves. Anyway, but thank you, Rita, for the email. Look, I've known police officers over the years who are not thrilled about the fact that there are so many guns, because traffic stops, they are dangerous because of that. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of our program, make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can get that at iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, all of those top locations, plus any of the other ones you can find. I'm sure we are there. Again, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you've got thoughts, questions, comments, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.